What's up, guys? Part-Time Gamer Dad here. We just got done watching PlayStation State of Play for February 12th, 2025. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on the event. It was underwhelming. Like, this State of Play had an opportunity to start the year off right, to give us some insight on some upcoming games. I know the argument is they'll be shown at Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards. Why can't these State of Plays have a little bit more oomph to them? Why can't they have something more exciting and intriguing that would get more eyes on these State of Play showcases? They showed quite a few things, but there wasn't a whole lot that was very interesting. This is kind of my Elite 8, if you will, of the games that I'm curious about based on what we saw. I will have to leave some stuff off, like Lies of P Overture, the DLC for Lies of P, which I think will be very interesting, and just stuff like that. But starting off with Directive 8020, I think this gave me some really intense Callisto Protocol vibes. Of course, the Callisto Protocol also gave people Dead Space vibes, so there's kind of that reoccurring feeling in there. This is a Dark Pictures game, so a lot of the graphical fidelity that we saw and the kind of heightened utilizing the heightened experience for utilizing well-known actors in this way is going to be, I think, a positive. But I mean, every video game has well-known actors nowadays. I will be curious to see what the gameplay is like. I will be curious to see how we get to interact with the world. In a lot of like those Supermassive games and Dark Picture games, it's kind of like you make a decision and you watch the branching storyline happen, but it's not a whole lot of really quality gameplay. It's a walking simulator with quick time events. So it'll be curious to see how that shakes out, but I do like the atmosphere. I do like the vibe of it. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that game. Next up, The Midnight Walk. This one gave me a little bit of like Little Nightmares turned up to 15, like some Tim Burton-esque art style, Little Nightmares atmosphere, but it's a first-person game. Definitely a little bit more of that horror element than a Little Nightmares, and action based. So not a whole lot to see for this game yet, but I think what they showed us is intriguing enough. I love a good horror game. I love it when it's not necessarily as photorealistic, where it's a little more cartoony, and that's the vibe I got from Midnight Walk. So excited to see what happens with that game as we get closer to its release. Speaking of a game that's going to be coming out soon, in the next 6 months, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. This was probably the game I was most excited to see shown on the State of Play. However, we knew about this game. This game was not a secret. It was one that we're all very excited for. So I'm excited to see more of it. I think it looks gorgeous. I think the gameplay is going to be really fun. I really like what we're doing in terms of the direction of not making it like a numbered within the series focus for the game. Like, it's not MGS3, it's MGS Snake Eater, which I think is really smart because it'll create an opportunity for people to just dive right in to the series. If you've never played an MGS game, this piques your interest. You don't feel like you got to go back and play all these other games, which also, if you ever want to play a Kojima game, hats off to you. Don't play them in order. Sometimes it's just better if you just jump into what's interesting to you, and the story's already confusing enough with most of his games, so go enjoy yourself. Besides that, Days Gone Remastered, like going from a remake to a remaster, did we need a remaster of Days Gone? And like, we got Days Gone before we got Bloodborne. We got Days Gone Remastered before we got Resi 9. I mean, I don't know. I have no beef with Days Gone. I never really finished it. Maybe I'll play it again one day. But I don't know if this was a game we needed. I don't know if it's a game that anyone asked for. And I will be curious to see if they make any money off of this. I feel like with remasters that people don't really ask for, they tend to lose a lot of money. And this was a game that you probably could have waited another 5 years before you release a remaster, or you could have just done a remake and see what kind of traction you get on a remake of the game and actually make a lot more money. But interesting to release a remaster of a PS4 game that people didn't particularly like. They liked it, but it wasn't a big revenue driver back at that time. Next up, Hell Is Us. It gave me the vibe of Death Stranding meets Jedi Survivor. This was a very interesting trailer. I didn't know anything about Hell Is Us before this trailer dropped today for me, and I think it looks gorgeous. I think it looks very interesting. It looks like it's very melee combat heavy, and I love that. I love games that give us a little bit of an opportunity to get closer to the action. So I'm really excited to see what this game has. It looks very grotesque in a lot of ways. It's kind of post-apocalyptic. Very, very exciting to see what Hell Is Us is all about. And I do believe that this game is coming out this year, September 4th, 2025. It's going to release on PS5, Xbox, and Steam. So very exciting to see what that game has in store. Another game that seems really interesting was Dreams of Another. So this art style of Dreams of Another was unique in that it was a little bit more pixelated, but it was almost utilizing that to drive the story forward and create a little bit more of intrigue. And we didn't get a whole lot of information from it. Even when you look up Dreams of Another on Google and you try to look up information about the game, there's not a whole lot in there. I think this is first time I've heard about this game was today. So I hope we get more information as we get closer to that game releasing. I don't know if they even announced a release date. No, that was it. It was today. It's also, I think what's interesting about the games that they have announced today is a lot of them seemed very much alike. Like every game that's coming out is just kind of copy and paste. This game seemed like it had its own vibe, its own style. But even then, like the third person element of it, the aiming of the gun and all those things still felt very familiar. So I think it'll allow people to get comfortable with this game. Kind of gave me a little bit of like a PS2 vibe, if I'm being honest. And not just because of the art style, but even how like text was presented on the screen. So excited to see how that game shakes out. Mind's Eye. Whoa, Mind's Eye looks really good. Mind's Eye is a game that I think it's coming out sooner than most of the other games. And I do think it's going to be one of those games that might be PS5 defining, because it's a story-driven like action adventure. It deals with a lot of like high-octane combat. It's got some really great like visuals. It's very cinematic in nature, but also it's a game that's, I think it's strictly for PS5, maybe Steam and Xbox as well. But it's a game that you get a sense that they're really putting a lot of buy-in into. Like they want to put a hyper focus on Mind's Eye on the PS5 and kind of show what the Pro can do. Like this game looks maybe prettier than any other game that I've seen so far shown at State of Play today. So that game will be really interesting. And then Seiros, aka Returnal 2. I don't know, man. Like Returnal didn't really do it for me, and I think it was because Returnal was one of those games that was difficult for a general, gamer base, like customer base, to jump into. And you can call me a casual, that's fine. It really did make it difficult for me to enjoy the game, knowing that it was one of those games that punishes you for the slightest of mistakes and was always kicking you back to the beginning of the entire story. And I do love those I love those time loop games. I love roguelikes. I like all those kinds of games. Returnal's okay on its own. Do we need another Returnal game? And it would be better if it was like a defined game away from even being, associated with Returnal, outside of the fact that it's the same game developer. But the fact that watching the trailer, you knew exactly who made the game, because even the enemy projectiles looked like something straight out of Returnal, but it's not a Returnal sequel. Felt weird. I don't know how I feel about that game. I don't know how I feel about this State of Play. I love PlayStation. I love Sony. We're not hitting on State of Plays over the last probably year. We're not giving a whole lot of reason to care about State of Plays. There's a couple of bright spots, but overall, what are we to get excited for? What are we getting hyped for? And so, I don't know. Maybe I'm just ranting at this point, but I love Sony. There's games we want. We want Bloodborne 2. We want a Bloodborne remaster or remake. We want Resi 9. We want these games that are the reason we go towards Sony. We go towards PlayStation 5. But this is not it. This is not it. So hopefully we get some more games announced sometime soon, games that get us excited for this year, games that inspire. Oh, they announced the release date for Borderlands 4. That's fine. September is fine and dandy. But like, again, that was meh. Like, and that's how we should feel about video games, especially games that like we love. But you know what we want? Give us what we want. That's all we ask. So, hey guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, let me know down below how you felt about today's State of Play. Did you like it? Did you find it to be fun? And if so, let me know where I can get some of that positivity in my life. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you very soon.